secret deals, hidden rules, playing for 3 countries. Trust me guys, there's a lot more going on in football than you think you know. There's more to this game, dark secrets that will blow your mind. For example, what if I told you that more than 100 people lost their lives in preparations for the 2022 World Cup? But let's save that secret for later. Let's start with something you most likely already know about: the crazy bans in the game. You see, football now is nothing like it used to be. Back in the day, football used to be a lot more fun to watch. The skill moves went absolutely crazy. Players could and would do literally anything that comes to their head. They had unlimited moves they could pull off. It could be decided to run with the ball on their heads, do a keepy-uppy challenge while driving at the opponent's box, or even hide the ball with the shirts. The list keeps going on and on. And my point here is this: these players could get as creative as they wanted. And to be honest, from a spectator's perspective, this was so fun to watch. You go to games not knowing what to expect. A certain player could pull the nastiest move and make the crowd go crazy. But as I said, that was back in the day. Now FIFA is penalizing any player who goes overboard. You can't do those special moves that add extra spice to the game. For example, right now the only thing you can do with your head is to head the ball toward the goal or past your teammate. Like, come on man, players used to dribble with their heads, so why limit them? And the same goes for many special moves. Now we have players playing like robots. Brazilian players don't even slap like they used to. And speaking of Brazilians, let's talk about one that found a cunning way of playing in a World Cup that he wasn't supposed to play in. And this is none other than Ronaldo Luiz Nazario. Yep, the OG Brazilian Ronaldo. We all know this guy. He is not just one of Brazil's greatest, but one of the world's. He had it all: speed, skill, strength, IQ, killer instincts, etc. But along the way, he was faced with a problem: injuries. From injuries that came as a result of impacts on the pitch to seizures that even the doctors could not explain. One time he ruptured his kneecap tendon and missed the whole 2000 to 2001 season. And this is where things got tricky. The 2002 World Cup was around the corner. Ronaldo was just cleared by the doctors, and all he wanted to do was get back on the field as quickly as possible. And now that the World Cup was here, and of course Brazil was participating in it, winning the tournament with Brazil was all he could think of. But the fans and his teammates didn't see it this way. To them, Ronaldo was not fit and shouldn't be representing Brazil. And you can't blame them. The World Cup is the biggest tournament in football. You can't have an unfit player in it. But Ronaldo really wanted to play, so he came up with a crafty way to make people stop talking about his fitness situation. He got the most ridiculous hairstyle ever known to man. He pulled up to training with this, and everyone forgot this guy was not fit. What everyone wanted to know was his barber's address. And it all paid for both Ronaldo and the Brazilians, because Ronaldo and his weird haircut led Brazil to victory, and to top it all, he won the Ballon d'Or that year. And still on the World Cup, have you ever thought about why the tournament is the biggest in football? In fact, calling the World Cup the biggest in football is an understatement. It is the biggest tournament in sports generally. Well, aside from the Olympics, of course, that is a combination of all sports. So, back to the question. What is so special about the World Cup? The answers are pretty straightforward. Football is the sport with the most fans worldwide, and the fact that the World Cup has to do with nations, yeah, it pulls views like crazy. But there's something else. The World Cup trophy is crazy expensive. No trophy in the world of sports comes close to this one in terms of worth. Hockey's Stanley Cup is worth $25,000. Larry O'Brien's trophy of the NBA Finals is worth $13,000. But guess how much the World Cup trophy is worth? $20 million. Bro, after the World Cup trophy, the Stanley Cup is the most expensive and it's worth just $25,000. That is some really ridiculous gap right there. But hey, the trophy is made of 18-karat gold. That's 75% gold. No wonder players always do all they can to win this trophy, even if it means scoring with their hands. But you know we can't talk about winning trophies without talking about this guy, Kingsley Coman. You're probably surprised I mentioned Coman. I know you're expecting Ronaldo, Messi, and for the football nerds, Ryan Giggs. But hold on, I mentioned Coman for a reason. You see, Kingsley Coman is second on the list of players with the most league titles, tied with Messi, Paco Gento, and Gary Neville, and one short of the first, Ryan Giggs. But this is what makes Coman a special case. He won his 12th league title in his 11th season. Let me rephrase. He had only played 11 seasons, but he already had 12 titles in the bag. And let me tell you how he did it. At the start of the 2015-2016 season, Coman was a striker for Juventus. Juve had a really strong start. It was business as usual for them. They already had the league locked in for them, and they figured they didn't need Coman to secure the league again. So when Bayern came to them with a deal for Coman, even after Coman had played just one game for them, they let him go. He ended the season with Bayern and both teams won their leagues. Yeah, Coman didn't lift the trophy with Juventus, but his medal was delivered to him in Germany. Talk to me about iconic transfers. But I guess transfers aren't all that special in club football. I mean, we see countless of these happen at the start of every season. Players change clubs all the time. But what we don't often see is players changing national teams. Yeah, we've had a few players play for 2 national teams, but there's a guy who has played for 3. His name is Dean Stankovic. This guy is the only player who successfully and officially played for 3 national teams. In April 1998, he made his debut for Yugoslavia against South Korea. In the 2006 World Cup, he represented Serbia and Montenegro. And by 2010, Serbia had already gained independence, so he represented them in the World Cup. It must be really nice having options. 95% of players don't have the opportunity to pick between countries to play for. But among the 5% that can, there is a player that you don't expect: Kevin De Bruyne. Would you believe me if I told you that this guy is not pure Belgian? Heck, he is not even pure European. If he wanted, he could switch camps and be playing in the African Cup of Nations. You see, Kevin's mum is African. She is from Burundi, while his dad is European. So yeah, Kevin has a choice. And who knows, we could see him fly Burundi's green and red in the next AFCON. Very unlikely, but we've seen Benzema try to switch from France to Algeria, so anything can happen. And I'm sure the African players would be excited about this switch, or maybe terrified. Kinda like this African star was when he saw the name printed on his jersey. John Obi Mikel, the former Nigerian captain and Chelsea midfielder, is definitely one of the most successful African footballers of all time. With Nigeria, he won the AFCON, and with Chelsea, he won everything. The FA Cup, the Premier League, the Champions League. But he did all these with a name that isn't his. Now, hold on. He wasn't trying to impersonate anyone or do anything shady. The whole thing was a mistake that was made on his behalf. At the start of his career, he filled out a form for the Nigerian FA. He put his correct name, John Obi Mikel. But his details came in late, and the whole rush made the guy in charge of the keyboard make a typo. He spelled Mikel as Mikel, and just like that, Mikel became a part of him. And I can't lie, that was a cute mistake. I mean, Mikel sounds cool, catchy, and unique, am I right? Just as unique as this insane record this team has. Do you know that although Spain won the 2010 World Cup, there was another team in that same tournament that went completely unbeaten? Yep, you heard that right. Another team didn't lose a single game in the 2010 World Cup, but Spain, who lost their first game in the tournament, ended up winning the tournament. Now, how is that possible? And which team has this insane record? Well, it is the New Zealand team, and they drew all their group stage games before crashing out of the tournament because 3 points was not enough to see them through. And moving on, a fact that is almost unbelievable. Do you know that Real Madrid isn't Barca's biggest nightmare? All this while we thought Real Madrid was Barca's biggest enemy. If it isn't real, it's Atletico Madrid or other European giants like Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Juventus or PSG. But the thing is, Barca has defeated all these teams, and they have done this on different occasions. But there's another team that Barca has met a couple of times and never once come out victorious. And I'm not talking about Barca ending the game with a draw, I'm talking about a full defeat. And get this team isn't even in the top 5 leagues. They play in the Scottish Premiership. Meet Dundee United. Both sides have met 4 times, and Dundee managed to come out on top every single time. In fact, the Scottish side haven't conceded at home against Barker. But let's come back to the Premier League. There's a pretty interesting record you should know about. You know how Balotelli used to play for Man City and made headlines a couple of times with the quality of goals he scored and all that? Well, do you know that he only managed 1 assist all through his stay in England? He played 3 seasons in the Premier League, but could only manage 1 assist while playing as an attacker. And that isn't the crazy part. What's really interesting about this assist is the fact that when it came, it was the most important assist of the season. Manchester City went head-on with QPR on the final day of the 2012 Premier League season. All Man City needed was to win 1 last game to lift the trophy. They haven't won the Premier League in over 40 years, and for the first time in decades, they were just 1 win away from lifting it. But things went south for them. QPR was not feeling generous and was in no mood to give out freebies. They started the game really strong, and by the 66th minute, they had the lead 2-1. Man City players fought really hard, and by the 92nd minute, Edin Dzeko converted an assist from David Silva and levelled the game. But this wasn't a knockout game. A draw wasn't going to earn them extra time and maybe a penalty shootout. Full time is full time, and that's bye-bye to the trophy. And with less than 60 seconds to full time, Man City launched a counter-attack. The ball found its way to Balotelli, he set up the ball for Aguero, and Aguero scored. The famous Aguero moment, and also Balotelli's first and only assist in the Premier League. That's right, that was a crazy way to end the season. But it wasn't as crazy as how these Madagascar teams, AS Adema and SO Lemena, ended their 2002 season. It was the National Championship, and AS Adema already had the trophy locked in before their last game, which was against SO Lemena. But there was an issue. SO Lemena came into the game feeling cheated. In a previous game, SOE lost the lead after a controversial referee decision that gave their opponents DSA Antananarivo a late penalty. Antananarivo scoring that late penalty sent SO Lemena out of the title race, and they made sure to let the whole federation know how much that hurt them. Their game against Adema began, and SOE immediately attacked their own goal instead, scoring own goals back to back to back until the ref sounded the final whistle. At this time, they had already scored 149 goals. The game ended 149-0, making that game the game with the most goals in football's history. Fans in their numbers rushed to the ticket booth to ask for a refund, and you can't blame them. That game was a total waste of their time. The Malagasy Football Federation suspended the SOE coach and 4 SOE players. We've finally gotten to the end of the video, and I'm not going to end the video without telling you what you really want to know. How the 2022 World Cup led to countless people losing their lives. Now, this is the whole story. We all know Qatar hosted the 2022 World Cup, but it is never that straightforward. You see, hosting the World Cup isn't for every country. You have to have world-class facilities, and most importantly, stadiums to get approved by FIFA to host this event. Or even if you don't own this currently, you'll show FIFA your plans to get everything ready before the tournament begins. Qatar followed this route. They had a plan to build the craziest football stadium in history, a stadium that could hold about 1.5 million people. And a little context for you. Camp Nou, one of the biggest football stadiums in the world, is barely at 100,000. So yeah, now you can picture how advanced the Qatar stadium is. It's like something we've never seen before, and this was where the problem lies. Qatar went through extreme lengths to get this stadium built, putting immigrants to work, and not just that, forcing them to work in inhuman conditions. These workers worked under extreme heat with not enough water, and it was only a matter of time before some of them started losing their lives. And it gets more disturbing when you hear that the passports of these workers were held by the officials so they wouldn't be able to leave the country till the stadium was completed. But brace yourself for the worst. At the end of the construction that began in 2015, over 6,000 immigrant workers lost their lives. And those are some of football's best secrets. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, And also support the channel by smashing the like and subscribe button.